Davis Cheat, quarterback of Elon.
Sir.
Very happy that you were able to join us today. How's Media Day going so far for you guys?
It's going really well. I've been enjoying it. It's my first one, and I mean, more than anything, it's just been really awesome seeing all the guys. I mean, you don't really all get to see. You don't get to see the faces that you play sometimes. You know, everyone's wearing a helmet, things like that. And
right.
But you get to talk to people, see how everyone's doing, and see some old faces that you've talked to before. So it's nice.
What's that mean for you to get the tap from the coach? Hey, you're going to represent our program at Media Day. There's only 2 of you.
Yeah,
so.
It's awesome. I mean, I was here last year and I was watching on Twitter wherever I could. You know, wherever I could watch it, I was trying to watch. And you know, you kind of sit there and you're like, I hope I can go and get there. But it was really great. I got a call from Coach Trish, and I was just immediately calling my mom, like, hey, like I'm going, like I'm really excited, like and that kind of stuff. So it's been great.
That's great, man. So, you know, looking back at your career at Elon to this point, obviously you're the guy from pretty much jump when you get there. I mean, the CAA Offensive Rookie of the Year, Jerry Rice Award finalist, and you guys, you know, you go to the playoffs. Then last year you start 4-1. You beat JMU. Everything is turning up Elon. You know, everything is looking great. And then obviously the ACL injury, and it kind of derails the entire season. Obviously, ends your season. I think the best place to start this off is just, what is that like for you to be in that position? You're rolling, everything is going so well, and then that happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a huge disappointment, and more than anything, I think it's, you know, not just for myself, but also all the guys that they put in so much time and effort. And I mean, the hardest part, honestly, was getting up and realizing that your role just diminished significantly on the team, and you know, and because especially after surgery, stuff like that, try to be around as much as possible. But it's not the same as when people are saying, like, okay, you're having the direct effect on the game.
Right.
So I mean, you know, it stinks, and we had a lot of guys get injured and things like that. But you know, I feel like we had a lot of guys step up and do a lot of things that they probably weren't expecting to do. But I mean, yeah, it was just kind of disappointing. But I think it's all for the better because, you know, you get to grow from it, and that's the big thing. That's kind of the big takeaway from surgery and going through it all, and you just really get to grow as a person.
For sure.
How tough is that to, you know, the last 6 games of the season, the playoffs, to have to watch and not really get to have a say in the game, as you were talking about, and then how do you bounce back from something like that or rebound?
It's really difficult to watch it. I mean, and not because it's not good football or whatever it is, but just knowing that, you know, that you could have done something, and that's what you kind of dwell in for a little bit. And you know, you go through a lot of phases of I mean, it's almost phases of grief. Like, you kind of have to figure out, like, okay, what is my role now? What am I doing? Like, okay, and then you're trying to figure out what's your plan for surgery. What are you trying to get back? At the same time, you don't want to leave the team hanging, so you're trying to be around, stuff like that. But yeah, that's the big thing. And what was the second part of it?
But just how do you bounce back mentally
yeah.
and you know, physically from an injury like that?
Yeah, I mean, the mental part is kind of the untold aspect of it. You know, there's a big hump that you have to get over when you first get out. You don't realize I didn't realize how difficult surgery would be, and then even going through it all, and you kind of realize that you can't take anything for granted. You have to relearn how to walk. You have to relearn heel-toed, and you push off. My quad, like, as soon as you get surgery, especially ACL, your quad has a tendency just to kind of leave you. So had to re-wake that up. You had to just learn a bunch of different stuff. The physical part of everything, it comes with time. There's no substitute for time. And the thing that you'll hear from every single person that's been through ACL is that it's such a fluid timeline and date kind of thing. Everyone keeps asking, when are you going to be back? When are you going to be this? Like, I don't know. It just depends on what everybody says. How do you feel? And like I said, the kind of untold aspect of it, the psychological part, you know, you have to be comfortable with sitting there and planting, guys coming at you. You have to sit there and think, okay, this guy's coming at me. I have to plant. Is it going to hold? And you kind of realize, you know, as you go through training, stuff like that, yeah, it's going to hold up. It's going to be good. But you don't really know that until you step on the field, and that's when you really get the sense. So there's still a couple more humps to get over, but for the most part, it's just been a day in, day out process, and you just keep going until you can't. Yeah.
Well, we're glad you're back, man.
Appreciate it.
You guys, I mean, Elon wins 12 games in the 5 years before you get there. 12 wins in the last 2 years with you there. And again, those coming when you guys are at full strength, right? So, in what way do you feel like you've been responsible for helping to change the culture within that program?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not just because of me. It's definitely because of all the people that are involved. I mean, I can't do half the things that I could do without great receivers, without great offensive line, without great coaches. I mean, ever since I've been there, we've had some really good coaches. Then even with the coaching staff change, there's been consistency on the offense and defense with both coordinators kind of being there, and then Coach Trish being a head coach. Mm-hmm. It's been really great having those two back. But I mean, I think more than anything, it's just trying to be there every single day and show the guys that I'm gonna work as hard as I can. And you try to be an example, and you try to be a leader in that sense. And you just try to show everyone that this is the way that you kind of do it, and this is the way that you kind of go about it, and you kind of hope that everyone follows. You just try to be a voice, try to be around, and let the guys know that you care about them. That's the big thing. That's what I want to try to do as much as I can, is let guys know that I care about them, especially, and that's something I learned after my surgery as well.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about the coaching change, because typically when that happens, it's a major turnover for the program. It's quite the adjustment, but for you guys, the coaching staff remained pretty familiar. So what was that like? Take me inside that process and how that went for y'all.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty crazy process. It's just kind of a whirlwind of stuff. One day you know one thing, one day you don't. And I mean, the big thing is that you kind of realize it's a business. Like, people are going to do what's good for their family and things like that, and you can't blame them for that at all. There's no ill will at all towards Coach Signetti or any of the coaches that left, because they're trying to do what's good for their family. I mean, I know a lot of those coaches, like, they put their blood, sweat, and tears into the program, and and the coaches even called me crying, being like, yeah, that's just what I have to do, and you understand that completely. But it's life. You move on and you go from it. And I think that we have a great coaching staff in place. I feel like that we definitely can get better, and we've gotten better in some areas and things like that. And I mean, what's good is that, like I said before, we stay consistent with offense, defense. We're not changing. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're still playing Elon football. We still have a process. Those things don't necessarily change. It's just new names and a little bit different ticks, things like that.
Gotcha. You want to try to fire our boy up with?
Absolutely. So
talk?
As Colby mentioned, you guys were rolling last year, 4-1. You beat James Madison. Yeah. And then you see the preseason poll this morning, and I believe 4th. Do you think people are kind of sleeping on Elon a little bit?
I was kind of surprised that they put us at 4th. I mean, there's a lot of great teams in the CAA, and it's funny. I've been thinking about that a lot, trying to figure out exactly where you're gonna go, like that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I mean, Mr. Hightower said it himself. Those kind of stuff, it doesn't matter.
Sure.
It's all about what you do during the season. Because, I think last year we were supposed to be 5th or whatever it was, and I mean, like you said, we were rolling for a little bit, and then at the end of the year, it shows off a little bit with all the injuries, stuff like that. So you never really know. You never really know at all. But I mean, I feel like we definitely have something to prove every single year. We got something to prove. I mean, as you're not in the number 1 spot, you got somewhere to go. For sure.
The diplomatic response you would expect from the quarterback.
Did you expect to be higher or lower? Is that about where you thought?
I didn't know. I didn't really know what to expect. I mean, kind of looking at everything, people might try to say, "Oh, coaching change, this is that." I'm coming off ACL. A lot of young guys, things like that. Sure, it might put us lower, things like that. I mean, I'm grateful for people that even consider us for polls and stuff like that, for put us in the top 5. I mean, like that's awesome. So. But I mean, yeah, we definitely have something to prove for sure.
Well, look, man. Speaking of polls, Jalen Thomas last year follows you. Yeah. He's a CAA newcomer of the year, offensive player of the year, rookie of the year. Mm-hmm. So he's back. He's just an example of a cupboard full of talent, and it's being recognized from the outside looking in. I mean, multiple magazines, polls, what have you guys ranked inside the top 25. I think you're as high as 12 in one place.
Yep.
That's a lot of expectation, a lot of hype within the program. Sounds like you're, at least individually, doing a phenomenal job of managing that. But as one of the leaders with the program, how are you kind of keeping everybody's eyes focused on the task at hand and shutting out the outside noise?
I would say more than anything, just try to make sure that keep everything in perspective. That's the big thing, is just keep in perspective on everything, because at the end of the day, those rankings, those kind of things, that's not for us to worry about. Our job is to go in there and win football games. And, you just hope that you do your job well enough to where you're considered as one of the best to play and to play that season, but also one of the best teams ever to play. That's kind of the big thing. And I think if you keep in mind just the perspective of things, then you kind of, all that pressure and all that weight's kind of taken off. So, we've got a lot of great guys in place, like you said. You got Jalen Thomas, you got people, Avery Jones, Jackson Parham, Cole Taylor. I can keep rattle them off. Matt Kovaleski, a lot of guys, they're older guys, and some of them are young that are just mature beyond their years, you know. And a lot of those guys, they're instrumental in, just the daily culture. Matt Foster, people like that. So it's really awesome.
Look, man, we wish you continued health. We're excited to watch you play this year. Thrilled about the partnership, and we can't wait to make it up to Elon to watch a game, man.
Yes, sir.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Davis.